you missed this
This
session or
meeting is being
something,
recorded.
you have to pop out. You will have access to this. The recording will be in the VILS Academy, and you can access the slides in Sketch. And Jessica, if you want to go to that next beautiful slide, if you have not joined the Sketch inside of this session, if you just popped in here randomly because it looked cool, make sure you go to Sketch and click on that. Let me grab the link for you. You need the link, it's right here. Click that little check marks to show that you have picked this session. And that's for two reasons. One, so we know who's here. And two, this is how you're going to give feedback at the end of our time on how the session went. Did we meet your needs? Did you learn something? You know, your general emoji feels. And you can only do that if you have clicked that radio button to say, I picked learner variability. And that's it. I can't believe you're here to understand having students learn about their own learner variability, fangirling a bit with Jessica because she is on this team, and I am going to toss it over to get this party started.
Thank you so much, Erin. We are so excited to be here. Today, Renee and I are talking about why you should teach students about learner variability. And we're excited to share some resources to help you with that and some lessons that Renee has created that she shared with students in her schools. And so I'm just thrilled to dive into this more with you today. So first, though, we're going to talk about ourselves. So Renee, tell us more. For those that aren't from your schools in Atlanta, what do you do?
Hi, I'm Renee Dawson. I'm a second year VILS coach in Atlanta Public Schools. This is year 17 for me in education. I know I don't look a day over year one, but it's year 17 for me. I taught special education for 15 years before taking this wonderful VILS coach position last year. I taught in resource, self-contained, co-taught, hospital homebound environments, you name it, I've taught it, in elementary, middle, high, and even pre-K and adult transition. So I've done all ages, grade levels, subjects, you name it. I have my BS from Georgia Southern in special ed, my master's from Georgia State, and my EDS in instructional tech from Kennesaw State. And I am a big fan of Jessica and the Learner Variability Project. And I use it a lot in my school. And even beyond, I've been working with a foster group that uses it with their foster children as they place them. So it's been really helpful in that as well.
I love that. I didn't know that about the foster group. That's so cool. Thanks, Renee. I'm so excited that I got to connect with Renee through the VILS program and the learner variability courses and micro-credentials that we have with VILS. And so that's kind of how Renee and I were able to connect. But a little bit about me, I am the director of professional learning for the Learner Variability Project. And prior to working at Digital Promise, I was a principal, a coach, a teacher, and I worked as a director of academics for a total of 20 years in education. And so very passionate about this tool and what it can do both for teachers and students, and excited to dive in more with you today. All right, so first up, we have an icebreaker that Renee is going to share with you all.
So we're going to make a digital glyph today. So I need you to put your creative hats on and maybe open up a blank slide in Google Slides or PowerPoint or Canva or whatever you choose. If you've never done a glyph before, my students love them. It's a visual representation of data. So you'll answer some questions honestly, and then each answer will result in a symbol that you'll use to build your person digitally. Or if you have markers and crayons by you because you happen to be that kind of teacher, more power to you. Grab a handful of crayons and let's get drawing. So the first part, we're going to do our body. And our body is going to be focused on things in the classroom. So think about when you get to your classroom in the morning, how do you prefer to start your day? If you prefer to quietly organize yourself, then you're going to draw a red body. If you prefer to talk with your colleagues, I can't do that. It stresses me out. But if you like that, that's a green body. And if you like to interact with your students as they arrive, that will be a blue body. And then to figure out which body shape you have, I do my best work when it is quiet. That's a square body. When you listen to music, I love a little piano pop music in the background. So that would be a triangle body. Or when I can talk quietly with a friend, that would be a circle body. So draw your body shape with the right color. Once you do that, we're going to put clothes on our body. If you work best by yourself, put some stripes on your body. If you work best with a partner, polka dots, or an assigned group, stars on your clothes. And then lastly for our body, we're going to go ahead and work on our hair color. You remember what you learned best when you see it, purple, hear it, orange, or do it, green. After we do our body, we're going to go to step number 2. Jessica, if you'll forward the slide. And then we're going to finish our head off. We already have our hair, so we're going to finish our face and our head with our how many eyes we're going to have. So if you like to talk to everyone around you, no matter where I put you, you're going to find somebody to talk to as 1 eye. Talk to people close to me, 2 eyes, or just listen and observe. That's going to be 3 eyes. So if you would rather or as a teacher, if you enjoy reading, writing, your nose is going to be a circle. If you enjoy math or more critical thinking activities, you're going to have a square nose. Music and art teachers, that's going to be a triangle nose. And if you're a PE movement person, that would be a star. After that, we're going to put our smile on our face. So if you would rather have 1 to 2 close friends, it's going to be a smile showing your teeth. Many friends with a smile with a closed mouth. And being by yourself would be an open mouth. And then how do you do your best teaching? When you feel happy, you're going to draw a red hat. Excited will be a blue hat. Understood will be a yellow hat. Or calm will be a brown hat. And our last one, our arms and legs. If you like to spend your free time outdoors, you're going to have red arms and legs. Indoors, purple arms and legs. And a mix of both, that's going to be blue. If you have pets, your arms and legs will be straight. If you do not have pets, they'll be curvy. And if you have siblings, yes, you'll have 2 legs. And if you don't have siblings, you'll have 4 legs. And then last, your birthday. January to April, you'll put shoes on your feet. May to August, we run around bare feet during that time. In the South anyway. And then September to December, put on some boots because it's going to be cold. All right, Jessica, you want to go to the next one for me? And then if you built your glyph and you want to show us, we'd love to see it if anybody wants to show us. If not, you can drop it to us on Twitter. We'll have our handles up later, but feel free to tweet it out to us or show us in some other way. Jessica did hers.
I'm trying to show mine, but my background's not cooperating.
Yeah, you gotta hold it right up to your body, Jessica. There you go. And then you just gotta lean your own self in. Oh, look at that square body.
Yeah, there you go. That's my glyph.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I hope you had fun doing your glyph. My students love them. And I love to make a bulletin board full of glyphs so that you can see how different everybody is, how everybody has differences. And that's what we're going to talk about with our learner variability today.
Yeah. Katrina, thanks. Yeah, we went through it pretty fast. Hopefully, feel free to drop it in the chat, or as Renee mentioned, share on Twitter and tag us. We'd love to see it, and even if you're still working on it. But as she mentioned, it is a great visual representation. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put mine in the Twitter handle in the chat. Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. There you go. So it is that visual representation of data, and it's a great activity to kind of make this real for students and understand that everyone is different, that we all have differences. And so you'll get a copy of the slide deck, and you can use the rules that Renee created and adapt them. So this has been done with first graders, and it's been done with middle schoolers, and now adults. So you can really do it with any group. You can just kind of adapt the rules and figure out the best format for getting that done, but it can be a great visual. And I think it really highlights some of our differences. And so as you're finishing up your glyph, I'd love to hear kind of what does learner variability mean to you? And when you think about this term, what does that look like in your schools? And you can either unmute or drop it in the chat.
Or if you have no idea and that's why you're here, you can let us know that too. We would love to hear that because we're going to tell you all about it.
I've got imaginary gold stars for the first person that responds in the chat or comes off of mute. And these imaginary gold stars are like highly coveted imaginary gold stars. So learner variability, what comes to mind? Who knows? Who's going to take a shot? Boom, Carrie, 13,000 imaginary gold stars are now yours. Display them with pride. That's why you're here for imaginary gold stars, Katrina. Just kidding. You're here to learn all about it, and you could not be in a better place to learn from the experts themselves. So thanks, Carrie, for jumping into the chat.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And yeah, it's not a term that I, was readily familiar with prior to. I think it's something I have a much deeper understanding. And Michelle, that's a great question. We're going to talk a bit about multiple intelligences and learning styles in just a bit. So let's get into it then. It sounds like, so here's kind of our definition. Learner variability is the recognition that each student has a unique set of strengths and challenges across a whole child framework that are interconnected and vary according to context. And what you see here is a picture of what we call a jagged profile. And so when we think about learner variability, there are lots of factors that can impact the way students learn. And it's also impacted by context. So how students learn best in a math class can be very different than in a reading class. It can be very different online versus in person. And so understanding that factors are going to show up in different ways in different contexts is really important. This is not a fixed thing. It's also important that we think about factors beyond academics. So we think about cognitive factors like working memory and metacognition, SEL factors like motivation, and then student background factors like sleep or adverse experiences. And so all of those factors can be interconnected, and understanding those connections can help us really identify what are the best strategies to support our students. So I'd love to hear, kind of with this definition in mind, what do you think from this definition is important for students to know? You can just pull out a few keywords from this definition or anything. Drop it in chat or come off mute.
I think it's important for students to really have a great understanding of who they are as a child or who they are as a person, because it'll be really hard for you to be able to, I think, determine what you need if you don't know who you are and what brings you joy or what doesn't.
Completely agree. I think often we use the term whole child, but just kind of being able to understand who you are as, and that really means, like you just said, understanding who you are as a person, what you bring to that space, and really being able to celebrate that. And I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat also noting strengths. And so I think that's really important and something we often have to kind of make an effort to focus on and emphasize, because a lot of times our systems aren't naturally draw us to what are the deficits and challenges that we want to address, but really remembering to emphasize strengths and make sure that students know their strengths as well. Super important. So thank you all for picking up on that. And then Andrea said in the chat, and Erin mentioned it too, but the idea of being unique, right? That understanding learner variability really helps disrupt this myth of an average learner. Everyone is really unique, just like our fingerprints, in the ways that we learn and the ways that we respond to different contexts and different situations. And so understanding that is important in helping students understand that, because that also means there's room to grow and change and get better at things and learn different ways. And so that's really important. I included this picture of the plants here because I think it's a helpful analogy sometimes to think when we're thinking about learner variability. You can think about plants or use animals. But what I would say to students is that, plants all need, the same things to grow, but it can really, how much water, how much sun, how many nutrients they need can really vary according to their context, right? So a cactus doesn't need the same amount as a tropical flower, right? And so kind of understanding that they're all plants, but they look different. They have different things that they can do, and they need different things in different places. So that can, using analogies can kind of help students understand some of this, these ideas. I wanted to spend just another minute or two on the context principle, because it is really important. And it is kind of this idea, we often like to, use labels, and a common one that's a favorite is the idea of introvert and extrovert. And I'm curious, if I asked people, are you introverted or extroverted? Usually folks will say, one or the other. A lot of times they'll say ambivert. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but meaning both, right? But the real answer is it actually depends, how, sure, I'm someone who would qualify myself probably as more of an introverted person, but I can be very extroverted in certain circumstances, and you might be surprised how I would act in a karaoke setting, but in a room full of strangers at a dinner party, I might be very different. So it really depends on context and how our behavior intersects with that context. And so it's important to keep that in mind when we're thinking about students' learner variability. And when we think about their strengths and challenges, is really understanding, well, is this a specific strength or challenge in math? Is it true for reading too? What are the different variables that can impact student strengths and challenges? And it is one of the reasons why learning styles is a myth. It's actually not backed by research, even though it's very popular and most people still often refer to it or think of themselves as visual learners or kinesthetic learners. But actually, it's the reason why it's not true is because it ignores the context principle. And it says that we learn best in one way all the time. And that's actually not true. It really depends on the task at hand as to how we learn best. And so keeping that in mind is really important, because if we label a student, or even ourselves, if I think of myself as only a visual learner and someone who only learns that way, it can become a self-limiting belief where I'm like, well, I can't listen to that podcast because I only learn things when I see them, right? And so we don't want to be careful about those labels, and kind of keeping them on. The context principle really helps us understand that these things aren't permanent. They can really vary a lot. And so that's where the navigator can help. This is a tool that our team at the Learner Variability Project has developed, along with a lot of help from researchers, experts in the field, and practitioners also in the field who are doing this work. And so I want to just quickly give you a quick tour of the navigator if you haven't seen it before. Let me jump back out to the home page. So, and Erin, if you don't mind dropping a link in the chat, you can follow along with me. But if when you come to the Navigator, we have 7 different learner models for you to choose from. I'm going to show you the literacy, adolescent literacy model. First, you'll come to the factor map. And so these factors are all variables that have been found to predict student outcomes in this specific content area or group. And as you hover over the different factors, it will show you factor connections. This is one of the most powerful features, I think, of the Navigator, is understanding these connections across the whole child. So how, factors like motivation can impact academic factors like composition, cognitive factors like metacognition and primary language. So really seeing these connections is really helpful. If you want to know more about a factor, you can click and get a summary of the research on that factor. So our team reviews all the research and designs this summary here. And my computer's being a little slow today, but you'll also get this factor connection wheel, which can provide a little more information into how this factor is connected to other factors. But another important feature of the Navigator is that it will also show you which strategies can support this factor. And so again, this helps you select strategies with more intentionality. So if you really want to make sure that you are helping students with a sense of belonging, this is a great place to come and kind of brainstorm what are some other strategies that you could incorporate that would help, address this factor. And to see all of our strategies, you can go to the strategies tab here, and you can actually filter by multiple factors. So in this model, we have over 100 strategies. Unfortunately, my computer is just being a little bit slow here, but you can filter them. Actually being very slow here and select strategies across multiple factors. There we go.
So not only that, Jessica, I love this part so much. And as your computer is kind of digging in. So once you've thought about your student, kind of identified one kiddo where they are and the strategies change, when you click on it, it's not like just reading. There are videos, there are tech tools that you can use to actually turn around and implement the strategy maybe the next day once you found it. This is not a long drawn out tool, but it is a turn and burn, get your kid, get some strategies.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Another thing you can do here, I don't know if you noticed, but I selected 3 different factors here, and that helped narrow down strategies that address all 3 factors. So in this way, you can address multiple factors at the same time. And as Erin mentioned, when you click on a strategy, it will give you an overview of the research on that strategy, include a video along with resources. So this is great if you're coaching teachers and you want to kind of share different resources and ideas for them. This is a way to do that. So that's a quick overview, and I went pretty fast. If you go to the link here, you can also take the tour and it will kind of review everything I just said. But I want to make sure we have time to get into our guide. So the Navigator was designed for teachers to use to really help them identify strategies for their classroom. But we really feel like it's important for students to understand learner variability too. And as we talked about earlier, really gives them agency and empowers them to understand who they are as learners. And so we worked with some educators to develop this guide, which is designed to teach students about learner variability. And my computer will cooperate again. And so what we have here is just an overview. So if you, again, of what learner variability is, as we talked about, and then some ways to kind of explain that to students and really think about that whole child concept. As I think Katrina was mentioning, like, what are all the different components of yourself that you kind of bring into that space, and how those intersect. And so this is kind of written in more student-friendly language there, and also identifying strategies from the navigator that can support students in these different areas, to give you ideas of things you can incorporate. And then this walks through how to teach about learner variability. We have a poster that you can download and print that's kind of written for students to understand. But we also have some lessons. And so a teacher, Sarah Oberly, designed lessons with a first grade unit, and it included a glyph activity as well as some slides. Here's her glyph that she did with her first graders. And I asked Renee, I was like, can you take this and make some middle school examples from that? And so really excited for her to share more. So we'll drop the link to the guide in there for you, and you can go through it. But I want you to have the chance to hear from Renee what she did with this.
Hi again. So I did a unit for middle grade, so 6th through 8th. Each lesson, I kind of kept it with a 30-minute time limit, and it can easily fit into your social emotional learning time, morning work, or beginning of the year activities, or just those like, I have a few minutes in between stuff and I can do something time. We all have those in classrooms. So just anytime you can fit it in, it'll work. Here is the link to my unit. It'll give you all of the resources. The slide deck has everything you need. Every day has a little video. If you want to go to the next slide, Jessica, I think I explain it more on there. So yeah, each lesson has a warm-up followed by background information and a short video. And if you need a sheet or anything like that, it's linked in the lesson. And then after that, there's a discussion and an activity, an individual activity for the students to participate in, or a partner. And then there's a reflection and time for them to discuss the activity. And everyone is different. And then I even did like some extension activities afterwards that involves Minecraft and some other cool technologies that you can pull in to have them really express themselves and work on their learner variability.
And what's great about her lessons is they are set up to kind of be a series of lessons. And so, as she was kind of explaining, each day kind of spends a different time in one of those whole child domains. And so it might be a day about SEL related factors and activities, and then one day about cognitive factors and activities, so that by the end of the unit, they kind of have this picture of how all these different components impact them as learners and get a sense of their strengths. Can you share a little bit about how you've used these lessons or how you incorporated them?
Yeah, definitely. So here's the extension activities sheet, but we've used them during our SEL time. We have dedicated, we're lucky in Atlanta Public Schools that we have dedicated SEL time every single day. That's one of our superintendent's orders, and I love it. It's really been beneficial to our students and to our teachers that have really fully embraced it and used it. So my teachers are finding that they have more confident students when they use these lessons, and the students really start to understand their strengths and can work towards their strengths, but still know what challenges need to be supported. So we've seen lots of student growth with this, both academically and emotionally. And it's just been incredible to watch our students really grow with this. I've also used it for coaching. There's an adult variation of the learner model that I use when I coach my teachers through the VILS program. And that has been critical in helping me as a coach develop my own coaching style and really work with my teachers and hit the areas that they might not even realize are challenges for them that we can support and bring forward.
Yeah. Another thing I'll just add is another teacher I worked with, she did the glyphs with her sixth graders at the beginning of the school year, and did a bulletin board with all the glyphs from all her different classes. And she said it was a huge hit at open house. the parents really loved seeing the glyph and were taking pictures of their students' glyph and wanted to know more about it. And so I think some of the activities can just be a great bridge for parent-family communication too. And so thinking about different places that you might incorporate some of these lessons or activities, that's just another example.
Yeah, especially some of the extension activities. One of my favorite ones is probably the identity circle. I love that activity because it's such a fun, especially beginning of the year activity to get to know each other, or beginning of the semester activity if you're switching classes every semester. And it really helps students dig deep to how they identify in different ways. So that's a great activity in the extensions. And then I love Minecraft, so I'm always going to push Minecraft. But the TED Talk, my students really enjoy doing TED Talks because we watch so many of them that they really like the planning of doing their own TED Talk and being the person on camera or on stage. And when we film them, we actually go to the auditorium and film, so they get the whole experience. So it's really fun.
And I love the way in Renee's lessons, I mean, she's really infused a lot of technology in there and done a lot of, been very creative, I think, about how kids can use different platforms to kind of express their ideas. And so I just think you should definitely check them out. They're great. And then you can use the guide to support developing, you know, your own lessons or new lessons with other teachers that you might be supporting. So any questions about what we've shared so far, either with the navigator or with the guide and Renee's lessons?
I had a question. Hi.
Right.
Sorry. I was looking for the tool that you were showing about the differentiation for, because I mean, we have a high population of L students at Rockaway Park High School. And so I think it's very useful, very appropriate, right? I like the way that it is easy to be able to track the student's progress and which area the student has already performed well. I think is also beneficial for the child as well to have access to a tool like that, because it assists with self-regulation, which is something that we want our students to do as we move towards LRE. So I wanted to know if you could put like the exact link on it, because I know that it's a link inside a link or something like that. I wasn't able to use it. And the one you have right now on the screen is also very useful. And I think these tools, and my AP is in another conference with Verizon today, but I think these tools are very, how would I say it, extremely useful, right? Because you're targeting what the child exactly needs. It's accessible and there's room for growth, right? Because we want to ensure that there's that opportunity for growth for the staff and the students, but it's something that it's attainable, right? And we need these tools. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the proper words to express it, but we need these tools, right? We see the same things as we visiting the ICT classes in particular with the content and ISS teacher, right? And everything is scripted in the IEP, but this is like the IEP coming to life, because this is like a cheat sheet tool, if you will, with the actual skill that the child would need to acquire for a particular area, and it's in an engaging way for our visual learners, for our tactile learners. So looking into, you know, what the focus is today with the various learning styles and all of that, how this comes together and comes to life as we're looking at our students as a whole. So I think it's excellent. I don't know who created this, but you know, I think it's a great tool that I would love to use in my entire school community.
Miriam, would love to get you that a little more specific link. So when you're working with your students, would you say that you're working with more literacy in grades 4 to 6 or literacy in grades 7 to 12? We can get you to those factors so you can look at all of the components that'll help your students specifically get to their ownership and understand how they learn in different contexts based on different variables. So is that where you think you might land in that 7 to 12 range?
So I have to tell you, I'm a 9 through 12 school, but you know, in New York City with the Chancellor Push for Literacy, we have the MAP growth, and a lot of schools across the board, including mine, a lot of our students have a very low Lexile level. So I would have to say both, because I have also some ENL students that are not, special ed students that would benefit for this, our general education students too. I think that it's a tool that could be used all around. So I would have to say both, right? Because for our low levels, we're now in tier 1, 2, and 3s with our readers, but this would be an amazing tool for students in either of the 3 tiers to push forward our chancellor's goals, right?
Absolutely. We've thrown a couple of those links in the chat, and just if you wouldn't mind like hovering over how you got to models and then selected. So if you go to that main learner variability navigator page, go to models and hover over, and those are those links within the links that can get you to the targeted page. And then once you're on that, you would click strategies, the box at the top, about factors and strategies, to really look at that checkbox thing that Jessica was showing earlier. And I hope, Miriam, that helps. And
Yes.
really thank you for asking and speaking up.
Perfect. Thank you so
I
much.
see
That's
you.
beautiful. Very eye-catching too. I guess it's
Thanks.
perfect.
I can't take credit for that, but we do have a team that works very hard on that, so they will appreciate hearing that.
And I see a question from Jessica. How long does the unit typically last? The main unit is made for 1 week, and then the extension activities each can last for a week or longer, depending on how long your students take. So each lesson should take 30 minutes. The videos are short, so you're not watching a 20-minute video, and then their activities can be done. And I believe that there's one for every day of the week, and then you are done and can move on to the extension activities that you choose. I tried to keep it like simplified for teachers, so it's not too much to add, because I just hate adding things to my teachers' plates. I want to take things off, but this is so valuable that I wanted to make it something very easy that they could just throw on the board real quick and have everything ready for the students during SEL and go through there that way.
And I just wanted to share, I know I shared an example earlier about how a teacher did this at the beginning of the year, and it was great for her open house, but you don't have to wait until next fall to do this activity. It's great to do in the winter, spring too. And I think another thing you can do, especially with the middle and high school students, is think about helping equip them for and understanding themselves as learners for those end of year assessments and projects, and really kind of helping them, think about how they can understand their strengths and challenges through that lens. And so that's another way that we've kind of used this unit in the spring of last year, is kind of helping with assessment anxiety and thinking about all the different things that kind of come up. And so the more they understand their strengths as learners, that can make a big impact on their performance on assessments as well. So still a great time to try Renee's lessons. With that, I'd love to just say, why are you interested in teaching your students about learner variability? And based on what we've shared today, if there's anything that you think you really think is important, we'd love to hear that. And you can unmute or put it in the chat.
And for those of you who came into that first question, we asked, like, what is your idea of what learner variability is at the start of our time? I hope now you've got an answer to that. And, everybody learning at their pace, and they're based on their specific variables in some domains that we can help them identify and reach. But I want to hear from y'all, because you are the powerhouses. Why should we teach our kiddos? I have some more imaginary gold stars if you need them.
Or even if you were unsure what this was, now that you have an idea, how has that kind of changed what you're thinking of with coaching or teaching or anything like that?
Hi, this is Michelle from Compton. I can't wait to get this in the hands of teachers just because it is so easy. Like what you like, honestly, when you add another tool or you come sometimes with another website, they're like, oh no. And like, so this one though is usable and it's quick and easy to show them how usable and accessible. And yeah, it's definitely going to be helpful for my teachers. And we're hitting coaching season right now. So it's perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle, for sharing that. And I see a couple of answers coming through in the chat too, Pam. I totally agree. Self-awareness, but also that empathy piece is such an important one. I think it helps them empathize also with other students in their classroom, as well as teacher to student empathy. So it's a big, I think the lessons and stuff can really be helpful in that. And Kari, I agree. Kari or Carrie, sorry, I'm not sure. They can be empowered. I think it's very empowering, and also mention the empathy too. So those are great reasons, and we agree. I think it can really support their strengths. I think it can help with kind of that growth and learning mindset piece. It helps students advocate for themselves, and I think that's really important in secondary school before they go off to possibly college, really understanding like what are their needs and how can they advocate that in school settings, and of course understanding differences in empathy. So you guys hit all of those. Please rate this session in Sketch, and I am always open. I think I put my contact information at the end, which was what I was trying to get to, but I'll go back and let Erin list those other slides. I just wanted to make sure, please reach out if you have any questions as you're using the navigator working with your teachers in schools. I'd be happy to share resources. We have a lot listed on the navigator under professional learning, and I'll let Erin take it from there because we're at time.
Thanks, Jessica. So I threw the link for your email in case you didn't grab it, but if you scroll up a little in the chat, that Sketch link is there. And this is what we have coming up. We have a quick break, and then we're jumping right back into more learning. Now, some of you may be looking at this and already picking. They're like, dude, Erin is super cool. Like, we want to spend more time with her. That session, Augmented Reality in Education, unfortunately was canceled today. So we're not going to hang out, but I'll be in the next block. But please check out classroom collaboration, ongoing IT success, and preparing to teach all students in a globally connected world. You can't go wrong with any of those sessions. We are so grateful for your time, your engagement. I am out of imaginary gold stars, so you cleaned me out. I'm gonna have to restock before I meet more teachers and educators. And Jessica and Renee, you've been amazing. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a great day.
Thank you all.